Yes, so again, I'm Pastor Kelly Chapman. I am the director for the Center for Leadership and Neighborhood Engagement, and thankful for Sumner and Kelly and Dan, who are co-hosting our technicians and our leadership this evening. And we're so pleased to have with us today as our reflection leaders, Tasheante Locust and Marcel Locust, Mr. Stylz. And they're just looking forward to our conversation with them. And again, reminding that as we have our conversations, and they're really preludes also to the breakout time and that rich opportunity that we have to listen to one another and share more deeply as we share this time of welcome and centering ourselves and entering reflection and connection, and then sending and all the ways that we are enriched through this time that we come together. We begin with a land acknowledgement, recognizing that we gather asking the question, how do we build true relationships across difference? We acknowledge the sacred lands on which we stand. The Center for Leadership and Neighborhood Engagement is located on the ancestral homeland of the Dakota people. We're here in close proximity to the territories of the Anishinaabe and the Ho-Chunk peoples. This land has been stewarded as a living relative by the Dakota for generations. The United States government effectively stole this land from the Dakota people through a series of unjust treaties and broken promises, followed by targeted efforts of genocide and ethnic cleansing and forced removal. And for this, we repent and we commit to doing better. So we look now to the Dakota people and all the Native American communities as examples of resilience and resistance and strength. And we are grateful to have the opportunity to learn and to work in this community on this territory. As we enter into conversations on racial justice tonight, let us remain mindful of these broken covenants and commit to building trust in all of our relations. So we invite you in the chat to list, the areas that you may come from in your neighborhood and or beyond Minneapolis and the Minnesota community. We center ourselves recognizing and celebrating this week that as a nation we celebrate Juneteenth. And so we will share this centering video of Juneteenth, and that will be followed by a couple moments of silence before we enter into our reflection time this evening. We don't have the sound.
I was afraid of that. Pardon me. I'm sharing, and then I'm going to share it again. Sorry, everybody.
We still don't have the sound.
Well, I beg your pardon, everybody. Not entirely sure as to why I can't share the audio. It was working just fine a few minutes ago. Bear with me.
American history is mandatory, but Black history is optional. Black literature, a prop for show. Look at how they've accommodated as we play along. With common outdated topics like slavery doesn't exist, it's been whited out. Well, don't I feel liberated? But I don't know freedom. Freedom. Do you know me? Am I important to you? Or just an affirmative act? Can I freely talk while still being Black? And will you understand me as I speak rhythmic words that beats on your uncomfortable conscience? Listen to me, freedom, because I have words for you. Black words with a deep melanin tone that do not atone for just existing. Words that are scarred and whipped and chained only to break loose with a strong hand and a fervent prayer. Words from the past, reverb, bouncing off every corner, surrounding you. Words that are real and cannot be whited out. Because the color always bleeds through. Words with a history that is equal. So please do not try to separate it. I am not an option. I am concrete. I am finite. I am mandatory. And you deserve to know me. You deserve to know Juneteenth. And I deserve to know freedom.
I love that the young man's words of, you deserve to know me, you deserve to know Juneteenth. In that spirit, we deserve to know Marcel and Tasheante, who are triumphant changemakers. They're incredible young adults. Tasheante describes herself as a 26-year-old homeowner who has been married for 3 years with a new incredible daughter named Marcel. She also has Marisa, thank you. Thank you, Tasheante.
That was Marcel too.
She has 15 nieces and nephews, 6 godchildren, and is the education support professional for elementary students as well as special education paraprofessional for middle school students. On top of that, she's been a youth leader in North Minneapolis for over 3 years. She's a certified life coach and loves spreading love, peace, and positivity. She knows that the purpose of her life is to improve the lives of others, to assist people in becoming the best of themselves for themselves in order to improve their purpose and to manifest their destiny. Tasheante is married to Marcel, Locust, whose stage name is Stylz. Marcel has been making music since 2009 and first started making Christian hip hop music with a group called Redeemer Jump Crew, or RJC, where he had the opportunity to perform to 20,000 people. And in 2013, he left Minneapolis and went to Drake University, where he met two guys who created their own hip hop. It was with them that he began to transition away from the Christian hip hop into conscious hip hop. The group was called The Misfit, from the Misfit movement. And they once opened for Young Jeezy and Des Moines. And now he is one of two for The Real Is Back music. And they make conscious hip hop here in Minneapolis. And I know Marcel and Tasheante as incredible young leaders who are a gift. And we are very fortunate to have them as our reflection leaders this evening. So Marcel and Tasheante, although I butchered some of your introduction a little bit, was there anything that you would say to introduce yourselves?
Yes, to update my autobiography. I am not 26 anymore. I'm 27 actually. I'll be 28 in October. And yeah, I'm still pretty much doing, some of the same thing. I'm still a life coach. I started my life coaching journey back in 2018, and I feel like for like a whole year, it didn't take off in a direction that it should have. Mm-hmm. But now within the last 6 months, it's taken off. It's taken off. On top of that, I also do hair. So I've been, that's been taken off for me as well. So I'm a hairstylist, a life coach, educator, mom, auntie, wife. I'm just all of the great things a Black woman should be.
Yeah. And a homeowner.
And a homeowner. Yeah. Don't forget.
Yeah. Yes. How about you, Daddy?
Yeah, mine's is still pretty accurate. Yeah, recently became a dad on New Year's. That's definitely been a life-changing experience. Still doing music. I absolutely love it. It's a passion of mine. I'm actually performing on Father's Day for Juneteenth at George Floyd Square. So yeah, I also must say I really love the spoken word poem. I think my favorite part was when he said, I believe he said, I am not an object. And I was just like, thank you. That's important. That's important. I am not an object. I am a human being just like everyone else. But yeah, married. Also, me and my wife, assuming, I don't mess up by then, next month will be 4 years that we've been married. But, I still got some time to, throw a wrinkle in there. But yeah, and then this is the little one. She's the reason why I'm late. So blame her. She decided she was gonna throw a fit and mess up her diaper right exactly at 6:45. So I apologize for being late.
Oh no, she's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So Marcel, Tasheante, I saw a saying recently that said when they buried us, they didn't realize we were seeds. Right? And so thinking about that as a metaphor of, and thinking of you both as seeds, incredible seeds, you know, whatever experiences or challenges you're sprouting in the ways that you're a witness and living in the community, making a contribution. So I want to ask you, who are some of the people or experiences that water you as seeds, using that metaphor?
I can start. Actually, man, there's a lot of people I could list, honestly. One for sure. I guess I'll just put them together. My parents, for one. You know, my mom and dad. You know, one thing about being a Black man that I always thought was really interesting is growing up, I was one of the few people with the two of all my friends and people I went to school with. I was one of the few people with either a two-parent household or where both my biological mother and biological father were still together. And so that was they were always just such an inspiration for me because, you know, a lot of my friends and even some of my family never got to experience that. And I was, you know, for a while, I kind of felt like an outlier when it came to that. But yeah, they were one of my inspirations for marriage and powerful Black couples. And I don't want to say I always wanted my marriage to be just like them, but there's definitely some things that they did that truly inspired me to, especially my dad. That the man my dad is, he truly inspired me he showed me what a powerful Black man is up close and a hardworking Black man. So I really appreciate them. My grandparents, a lot of you probably know my grandfather and his wife, T. Williams. You know, there's so much about them that I don't know, but just because, you know, they just lived so many generations before I was even born. But just all the stories they told me and just the things that I've seen from them personally, they definitely, especially my grandfather, is the reason why I make the music that I do, because this way I can speak on what I believe is right, speak on what I believe my truth is, speak on what I believe my people's truth is. So they would, if it wasn't for those four specifically, I really don't know where I would be right now. They inspired me so much. And then, of course, my wife and daughter, you know, she's only been around for 5 months, but she's changed my perspective on things so much, on how to inspire youth and the power that adults can have when it comes to youth. And then, of course, my lovely wife, who just never lets a dull moment go by. Never lets a dull moment go by. She's definitely, you know, always has a positive mindset, always thinking about the next big thing, always figuring out what we can do to become more powerful together as a unit. She is just everything to me. So if I had to pick, and, you know, there's a lot more people. Pastor Kelly is another one. My pastor growing up. William Jones, who's a lot of you have met, that was a mentor to me he was a mentor to me when I first started rapping. There's just so many people, but yeah, those are just some off the top of my head.
Marcel, do you mind saying a little bit more about your grandparents? Because
yeah, so my grandfather is from Mississippi. I could not tell you what part. It's some little town with like 3 people in it. I can't remember the name of the city, but he grew up in Mississippi, 1930s, 1940s. He has helped so much. He used to work in the prison. His job was working on getting prisoners' rights for individual prisoners. Like one thing he got is a lot of when he worked there, a lot of prisoners weren't getting their letters from the outside world, from their families, and he made sure that happened. He was a big part of the civil rights movement, man. Let me tell you, if you get him started on anything in the civil rights movement, I hope you have time, because he's got countless stories. My grandmother, she worked in the mayor's office, working with people like Hubert H. Humphrey. I forget who the mayor was at the time here in Minneapolis, but she's from Philadelphia. And she is very much, let me tell you, my grandmother's another one. You get her started on one of her civil rights stories. I hope you got time. I hope you got more time, because she'll go into every single detail, what time it was, what color the trees were. She doesn't miss. I'm trying to think of one. I could tell a story that my grandfather told. My grandfather once told me a story about how he was younger. I don't think he was even in middle school yet. And him and his brothers were playing outside, and this little boy, he was white, came up to him and told him to move off the sidewalk because he was walking through. And remind you, he was younger than my grandfather. He was like a lot younger. And he refused to move. And the little boy started calling him all types of N-words and all types of bad names. So my grandfather beat him up. And then he said after they beat him up, they took off running. And the reason why I absolutely love that story, because this is 1940 Mississippi, and he just beat up a little white boy and took off running. That just thinking about it, just like how dangerous that was, how much trouble he could have gotten. Because, you think of people like Emmett Till, and, what happened to them off of something that didn't happen, and what happened to that kid. It just amazes me that he even at that young of an age, he stood up for himself. And even during the time where that was normal and that was common, he wasn't going to allow those type of injustices happening. And I think that's a big reason why he is who he is today. And then, my grandmother, she's told me so many stories. Like, I can't, they all run together, even when she tells them. I'm like, I'll just listen to her and be like, Grandma, the last time you told me that story, you told me it was this person and this person. But, she born and raised in Pennsylvania, grew up in Philadelphia, met my grandfather in Pennsylvania. They moved to Chicago, then they moved to Minneapolis. And she has worked in the political field pretty much ever since she came to Minneapolis, man. She's always trying to help out whatever candidate she thinks is going to do right for the people. And she's not afraid to tell anyone that they're wrong or that she doesn't agree with them. She has no fear. And she is a 88-year-old woman in a wheelchair right now. And she has no fear. She will tell you to your face, nope, that's not true. That's incorrect. I don't believe. I'm sorry. I can't get behind that. Shoot, she'll argue with me, and I know better now. I know better than argue with her, because I'm not going to.
Thank you, Marcel. I'll let you breathe while Tasheante gets in. We'll come back at you. So, Tasheante, how about you? Who are some folks that inspired you and kind of helped your seed to grow?
So my list is pretty short. Although I come from a very large family, I would say my mom was my number one role model. Like growing up, I used to always be asked, like, "Who's your role model? Who do you look up to?" And it was always my mom. Because in my eyes, like my mom was like the perfect mother, the perfect woman. She was loved everywhere she went. People loved her kids. She was highly intelligent, and the way that she taught us, she didn't sugarcoat anything for us. Like she let us know what the real world would be like. She gave it to us raw. So like when I come into them, pretty much with the same standard. Like your childhood is the shortest part of your life. You're gonna grow up and enter the real world. You're gonna have real world issues. So I'm here to, help you get your mind right, help you get ready for, what you may endure. So, yeah, my mom was definitely my number one role model. And then, like, to some people, this may sound, self-centered or, egotistical, whatever, but I was also my own role model. Why? Because one, I'm the big sister, no big female. So, I even have, older brothers, older cousins, but I was still looked at as the oldest because I was more mature for my age. And even at 28 almost, I still get, you're so mature for your age. So I'm like, okay. And with that, like, I just have an internal knowing, like, internal peace with myself. Like, I just know how my mind works. I know what kind of feelings come up. I know how to, like, analyze my feelings, use my mind and my emotions or whatever to create the reality that I want to live in. I've been a part of so many unforeseen circumstances that could have just blew out of proportion, ended me or whatever, but I use them as fuel instead of, using my circumstances as a crutch. I don't know, somehow I just outgrew them. Like, it was just a me thing. And as I grew, as I got older, after the age of 18, for sure, once I went off to college and, was really able to step into my independence, and I just really embraced the becoming of a woman. Not only my mindset, my body, like just me in general, because I know the power that a woman has and the fact that I'm becoming one, a powerful Black woman. Like, I'm in love with myself. Like, it's only right. And people always wonder, like, why am I always, preaching about self-love? Like, that is the most powerful love you can have. Like, if you have no love and respect for yourself, as you expect anyone else to have for you, then you're just not going to find it anywhere else. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I feel like I have an abundance of self-love and abundance of love, so much that I can give to others as well. That's also why most of my work is dealing with younger people, because those younger people are easier to teach and easier to breed, because their minds are still developing. So it's easy to, plant little seeds, because you're going to grow eventually. So my mom, me, and then my father. Of course, he's not my biological dad, but so backstory. When I was a baby, I pretty much died. Actually, I did die as a baby. It took like 3 weeks to come. I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks. Or was it 3 months? I'm gonna have to clarify that story with my mom. But either way, it was 3 something. I was in the hospital for a while, which is how we learned that I'm allergic to milk. My mom fed me milk, and I just died in her arms. She called my biological father and let him know that she was on her way to the hospital with me, and I wasn't breathing, and telling him what happened. And his only words to her were, "How do I even know she's mine?" And from that day forward, like, he just wasn't in the picture. She moved. Mind you, my mom had me at 16 years old. So imagine a young teenager with she already had my brother, so a 2-year-old and a dying child. Like, imagine the emotions and the thoughts and everything that my mom was going through at that time. But she didn't let that stop her growth in general. She moved to Chicago. She met my dad. Then a few years later, they got married and had my younger brother and sister. And I say my dad is one of my role models because he first of all took on two kids that wasn't even his own. And it wasn't until I turned 16 where I learned that Gregory Kenny was not my real dad, because all my life, like, he's been the only man there. I grew up in a 2-parent household, although the second parent wasn't a biological parent. Like, that didn't even really make a difference for me, because he still, taught me discipline, self-discipline at that. He gave me all the money knowledge that I know. Him too. He also taught us, real world issues, taught us how to handle certain things and handle ourselves in certain situations. And, they made sure they brought up some wise kids, wise young adults, because there's nothing that we can go through that we won't get through. And it's all because of the mindset and the things that they instilled in us.
Yeah. So, Tasheante, because of our limited time, I want to make sure they hear about how incredible you and Marcel are. So I wanted to ask you about like people who nurtured you to amazing people, how you got to be who you are. And I want people to hear about what you do, right? And so the ways that you give back to young people, and what is it that you do, like for work?
So I do a lot. So first, I'm an education support professional, and I'm an education support professional in Osceola area school district. During the summer, I am working with 4th and 5th graders. Well, now I'm doing all grades, so kindergarten, first, second, all of it, all the elementary. And then, so with Kids Stop alone, I'm pretty much, just sitting with the kids, teaching them how to share, how to behave, how to, talk nicely to each other. Because for some reason, like yesterday was the first day of Kids Stop. And one thing that I noticed, like when something happened that kids don't like, they instantly get upset about it and they act accordingly. So I had a breakthrough with a couple of students yesterday who were, having a little tit for tat, going back and forth. And I allowed them a few seconds to, figure it out on their own. But once their voices started raising, they were getting angrier and angrier. I'm like, first of all, let's just take a deep breath and let's figure out what the situation is. What is the problem? And, I allow them to express from their own perspective what they think the problem is. Because I see what the problem is, but what they thought was wrong was far from what was really happening. And I told them, like, you just have to, one, be open to listening to each other, because you're talking over each other, and it almost sounds like you're trying to prove your point instead of trying to understand the other person's point of view. And that's why this is not working out. And by the end of it, they were hanging out. They wanted to go to the next choice together. They wanted to do everything together because they became friends, because they were able to understand themselves and each other in that moment. So I was working with 2nd and 3rd graders when I did that. So that alone, like helping youth just get a grip of their emotions, because most youth, are emotionally reactive. And sometimes they don't even understand why or where the emotion comes from, where the actions come from. So my work is mostly mind work, same as being a life coach. Like it's all a mind. I'm focused on the mindset of everything. As a special education paraprofessional, I'm working with the Skills and Connect special ed kids. And my whole purpose with them, first of all, before I even got in a position, I had my own perspective of, special ed kids. But actually getting into the role and working with them, I learned, like, one, these kids are smart. They are highly intelligent. The main problem is they can't implement their intelligence because of their own, like, whatever their disabilities are, they just can't really do. So my goal with them is to, teach them, to just encourage them to do more than they think they can because of their disability. Like, I had this one girl named Leela. She was in a wheelchair, but she was so smart. She was friendly. Like, she gives hugs and smiles. Like, she was a whole vibe. But she felt like just because she was in a wheelchair, she didn't fit in with the other kids, because she wanted to have friends outside of the special ed class. She wanted to have friends who are a part of the general education class. And, she did have some friends, but the friends that she wanted, just didn't want to be friends with her. And of course, she felt like that was the case just because she was in a wheelchair. Like, no, you are more than just your wheelchair. You can do more, be more, and have more than you think just because you're in a wheelchair. And she was in 8th grade at the time that I had this conversation with her. So she's in high school now, and I'm not sure how she's doing. But by the end of her 8th grade year, she was a little more confident in herself, because she was talking to more people. She was, introducing herself more, just trying to find the friends who are willing to be friends with her. So my work with youth in general is to just build their confidence, like help them see themselves for more than what or who they think they are.
So I think from what I know of you and Marcel, what you offer in the school, in the classroom, is beyond your job. I mean, you offer a gift and a depth that goes beyond that. So I'm going to take 10 more minutes. So we're going to take a little bit more than we're supposed to. But I'll take 10 more minutes. And I want to invite you to ask Marcel a question, and then Marcel to ask you a question, so that that you will be the interviewee.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm asking my question now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, my question for you, Marcel. Actually, just a couple of days ago, I told you how proud I am of you for becoming the man that you've become since we got together in high school. So I got to see you from a high school boy to now this grown young man. You say I've inspired you in, new ways. What ways have you been inspired? In what ways have you grown?
She turned it around on it. So one thing that you have inspired me. I've always had a strong faith in humanity, but I had some questionable feelings about love. I wasn't, exactly sure how that is. I was always told love is a lot of ups and downs, and you're gonna have some good times, you're gonna have some bad times. It's a lot of that. And with you, I just don't experience the bad times. I don't feel the bad times. And it just truly made me realize that, some people can just actually generally love each other. And it's just not an issue. Of course, there are moments, but those moments never truly feel bad. They just feel like moments. It's just like, all right, it's a little whatever. We'll get over it. We're gonna go home. We're gonna get in bed together. We're gonna cuddle and go to sleep, because that's just what we do. And I never truly thought that a marriage could feel perfect. When people, because just all the marriages I look at, there's always something. I was talking about my grandparents earlier, and they absolutely love each other, but man, did they used to argue when I was growing up. And when I was younger, I used to ask my grandmother. I used to always ask my grandmother. She's like, if you two just argue as much as you do, why do you stay together? And her response was always because the funeral cost too much. But I could always tell she was joking, and they were just. And then they have those moments where they would just talk and go back and forth, and you could just see the now 60 years of romance that is between the two. But yeah, you inspire me to give love another chance. And how have I grown? I mean, a lot of people in here know me, man. I was just a young high school kid, man, who thought he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to become a big time rapper, go tour the world, and just see everything and rap everywhere. Prove I'm one of the best in the world. But I've grown to see that, specifically in my music, as long as I am happy and do what I love to do and feel like everything that I speak in my music is the truth, then I am doing something correct. I don't need 1 million fans. I have probably like 10 who will be like, oh man, yeah, I love what you said here. And give me a follow on Instagram or go follow the group on Spotify. And it's just moments like those that truly made me appreciate the things I do, and what's the word I'm looking for? The things I do and how big of an impact I can have even on a small on a small scale. So yeah, I'm forever grateful for everything I do. I'm forever grateful for everything that you do. Yeah, hope they answered your question.
That was a beautiful answer.
Okay, my turn. All right, I didn't realize I was going to have a question ready. So you've always said that you've always felt like a mother, whether that be to your siblings or your godkids or your nieces and nephews. But now that you have officially became one, what would you say is the biggest eye opener between acting like a mother and actually being a mother?
Honestly, the biggest eye opener is the actual hands-on care for a little human. Because of course I have to do more for my own than I can for anyone else's child. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But as far as anything else, like Marasia and I meditate every morning in her meditations. You know, I'm saying affirmations. Hopefully affirmations that she'll remember and repeat for herself. And again, it's just all the mindset thing. This is reminding me of a conversation I had with my dad the other day, because he was telling me, he made a statement: no matter how good of a life coach you are, you'll never be good enough when it comes to being a parent. And that kind of triggered me. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I think I'm a great life coach, but I guess I won't I don't think I'll understand what he means until Marasia is older and I have to make certain decisions for her. And some of the same decisions, that they had to make for us growing up. But again, I still feel like, me being a life coach gives me a foot in the door, gives me the, right headspace and knowledge to be able to teach my child everything that she needs to know before she steps into the real world. Helping her, get control of herself, her emotions, teaching her to love herself, teaching her to have the utmost confidence in herself, for herself, like, especially because being out in the real world, you have other people's perspective that you have to, consider when you're making certain decisions or saying certain things, whatever. But I want her to be pretty much like me. No matter where you go, just be yourself. If the people love you, they're gonna love you. If they hate you, they're gonna hate you. At the end of the day, just do you, just be you, and try to be the best you that you can be. And that's what I'm gonna teach my daughter. Like, you are a beautiful, Black, powerful woman. Step into your power and use your power for yourself first. And I feel like learning that, and that's something I learned. Like, when I turned 21, I think I made a post on Facebook about it too. Like, I really loved the transition into womanhood, because it was just a whole different feeling, a whole nother vibe, a whole nother, step into this power. And seeing the power and the influence that I still have on the people around me, and how loved I am everywhere I go, it just shows how well, one, I love myself, how much I love myself, and how confident I am, and how comfortable I am. Like, I feel like, I believe that I really mastered internal peace. And because of that, I'm able to, be calm in hostile situations. I'm able to teach in moments that are normally meant to, destroy. I'm able to pick apart certain situations to figure out, what is this here to teach me? Why is this happening? Like, everything happens for a reason. What is this happening for? So yeah, being a mother, it's an exciting experience. And I keep saying I can't wait till Marasia's a toddler and till she's a teenager. And everybody like, no, you don't want to enjoy the baby stage as long as possible. Like, of course I'm enjoying it.
I don't agree with that either.
I wanted a daughter for the older version of her, I wanted a daughter so I could, because they say your first child, especially your first daughter, is 100% you. Okay, so I'm anxious to see what she turns out to be. Like, I want to see a reflection of me, because I'm all I have. So now I have a little me. I want to see what she grows into. So I'm excited for the journey.
Marcel, Tasheante, thank you very much. And we really hope that she grows up to be like you guys too, because you're awesome. So but thank you for being our reflection leaders. We're going to break into the breakout rooms. And after 20 minutes, then people will be able to come back and maybe we'll have some time to, that they can ask you some questions or share some of their reflections together. So, in the conversations, we want to encourage people to introduce yourselves to one another. Choose any all of the questions from the list. Focus on listening well. I mean, really listening to the other person, not from judgment. It's not a debate, but it's really listening to one another. So hear from each person in your group and speak from your own experience using I statements. And so what stories did you connect with from Marcel and Tasheante's conversation? What jumped out for you and what challenged you? And I would invite you to think of that metaphor about seeds and thinking about what are the challenges that you think that they or you actually may be going through, and thinking about how brilliantly they're planting seeds in young people and their daughter.
Yeah, don't you want
Marisa, right? So we will break out in the breakouts about 20 minutes, and then we'll come back and share some time of reflection. Well, welcome back. Welcome back as we reconnect. And this is a time to open up some conversation that some of the conversations that we shared in our breakout. So what did you hear in your breakout rooms? What stories did you connect with? And what jumped out for you? And what challenged you as we debrief? And feel free to type your insights in the chat or raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And so on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see reactions and the opportunity to raise your hand.
Craig Neal is ready with a question or an insight already.
I'd also invite you to go to view to gallery view as we share this time together. Craig.
Thank you. Well, I had a great group with Marianne and Linda, and there's a lot there. I think all of us just felt this warmth coming from our two reflection leaders. Also this unabashed love and authenticity of expression toward one another. And the word maturity came up. And some of us were grandparents and parents, and we couldn't help but compare, and then Marianne told this wonderful story. I won't tell it, but if she's willing, she can tell it herself. But very touching story about our experiences of our children, our grandchildren, and then just how impressed we are with Marcel. And I'm sorry, I'm going to just butcher your name. I won't even try, but thank you so much. Very
Tasheante.
Tasheante. Thank you. I'm complete.
Thank you. Others? And Marcel, Tasheante, feel free to jump in as well. So. Dan.
Yeah, I have a question. This is a question for both Marcel and Tasheante. I know that over the last year, you've done a lot of work with young people in Minneapolis that are part of the different parishes. And I'm sure, Tasheante, you work with young people now too. And I'm just wondering, what are you getting from them? What do you see? What's different in their perspective, in their worlds than yours as you were growing up? Because you are the generation that's helping them grow up. I'm just wondering what you've learned, what you are learning.
I'm learning a lot from these kids, especially because they're living in a world of technology. Everything is on social media, so that's where they get most of their knowledge from. Growing up, all the knowledge that I gained were word of mouth, or from books. And then, outside of my parents, me being a big sister, I always wanted a big sister. So me being a youth leader just gives me the space to be the big sister that I wish I had, and watching them, teaching them certain things and watching them grow after learning some of the things that I've taught them. Like, it's a beautiful thing because at least I know they're open-minded beyond the things that they were already taught. And me, like, growing up myself, there are some things that I had to unlearn. Regardless of, how hard my parents tried to, instill it in us, some things were just, from their own experience, their own perspective. And even to this day, I have to tell my mom, like, that way may have worked for you at this time, but we're in a whole new world, whole new possibilities. Like, your way is not the only way. And that's what that's why what I enjoy, learning and teaching, youth today, because they're teaching me pretty much the same thing I'm teaching them, just in reverse. Because, like, I can teach them, you can use your mind to change your emotions. They didn't believe that. They believe, like, you have to go do something in order to, feel better. And that's not true. And, for some, that is true. You really do have to, put your body in the space that you want to be in. So, yeah, watching these youth, grow up and, become more than what they thought they could be is a beautiful blessing. It's great. I'm grateful to be a part of so many youth's lives, especially I've working at Northview. This school has an image, okay? And the image is just a very negative image, and it's almost seen as a throwaway school. So, like, when schools in the district won't accept kids, Northview will, and we get, like, some of the worst kids in the district. So the fact that I'm able to, create relationships with them and, change their minds and change their perspective on certain things. And, some kids come in, blatant disrespectful, no respect for authority, don't want to listen to anything, don't want to learn, don't want to do anything, just come to school and hang out. By the end of the year, they got straight A's, they, on the honor roll, they're more respectful, they're telling me yes ma'am, calling me mom, giving me hugs, stuff that they wasn't doing when they came into the school, So, like, it's a blessing to know that my work is, I'm able to see the results of my work.
I will say one thing they taught me is that I am in a very weird gap as far as, like, between generations. We are in a very weird gap. I started working at a high school when I was 23. And actually, I'll even go back a little further. When I was 19, I worked at the Boys and Girls Club, and I worked with the high schoolers. And I just could not believe, like, the gap between me. Like, I was a high schooler the year before, and there were just some of the things those kids did I just could not relate to. And then I started working in a high school when I was 23, and one thing, and a lot of kids loved me there because I was so close in age to them. When they were like, you're only 20, when I first started, they were like, you're only 23, like, wow. And, they'll talk to me about, but there would be just sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what y'all are talking about. One of the things, TikTok. I remember when TikTok first started. When TikTok first started, I was like, man, like a dancing app. This thing is stupid. Like, and everyone and all the kids kept like, you just try it, just download it one time and just try to get into it. I was like, no, that's stupid. One day I finally downloaded it, and now at least once a day I'm on it just for. So, but But it's the reason I say it's just like a weird gap, because when I was growing up, social media was like just getting started. It was like just, Facebook started in 2004. Twitter I think was 2006. MySpace was early 2000. And my mom didn't allow me to have social media. I had to hide it from her. Don't tell her. I was in college before I finally unblocked her on Facebook. But we weren't allowed to have social media. At most we were allowed to text our friends because my mom knew the number. She could connect it to whoever and knew exactly who it was. And, we could make phone calls, but that was it. I mean, we were allowed to go online. We just weren't allowed to have social media. She didn't want us to, be making friends online. Now that's almost how everyone makes friends, man. Everyone said, oh, we met on Snapchat. Oh, we met on Twitter or whatever. And I'm just like, you're only a few years younger than me, man. Like we were not allowed to do that. And now parents are just like, it's such a big thing in today's world. And so, yeah, like that weird, I feel like I'm in a weird gap where I'm like, cause I'm into social media. I love Twitter and I love TikTok. Those are my two favorite social media apps. In fact, I get almost all my news from Twitter. If something important happens, Twitter already knew about it. And that's my look on things. But like these kids, they're big on Instagram, TikTok. None of them. I was so shocked to find out Facebook was for old people when I would tell my kids that. I was like, oh yeah, I'm on Facebook. You're like, Facebook? That's for old people. I'm like, I'm only 23, guys. Like, it's actually funny. My sister, who's 8 years younger than me, is the one who first told me that Facebook was for old people. She couldn't believe I still had one. So just trying to figure out how big of a gap is it actually, how is this actually is, because like my parents are 8 years apart, but if you talk to both of them, you wouldn't believe it. You would think they're around the same age. And like even growing up, they both acted like, they were like a couple years apart, like they were the same generation, but they're not. My dad was born in the 60s. My mom was born in the 70s. Two different decades.
So, Marcel, Tasheante, because of the tyranny of time, we need to transition. I want to invite all of us to just kind of sink in the opportunity that we had to hear from both of you and think about Juneteenth and think about what's going in our world and the many ways that that our culture seeks to silence the giftedness and the voice of young people like Tasheante and Marcel. That so many people don't hear or see the brilliance of these young Black leaders because of the stigma, the mythology. So this isn't just about us hearing from the reflection leaders, but it's our challenge to take this voice, this relationship with us, and be the truth tellers about the brilliance that is within so many young people, gifted young people like Tasheante, like Marcel, like the voice that we heard in our reflection on Juneteenth, and the opportunity that we have to celebrate Juneteenth, to celebrate Marcel, and to celebrate Tasheante, and so many more. So we're called and challenged to take their voices with them because we are relationship with one another, and we carry one another with us. So as we transition, there's so much to be thankful for. Come together, we'll take a break, we'll pause for July and August and resume in September, on September the 15th. And we look forward to engaging with the community in beautiful ways this summer. And if we're really fortunate, maybe we'll get Tasheante and Marcel to join us again as reflection leaders. Come together, we'll just look forward, and we'll be doing things like cookouts, summer in North Minneapolis. We will be sponsoring, and we invite your partnership. CLNE, we're sponsoring 3 programs in North Minneapolis for youth. We will be co-sponsoring Freedom School this summer. And that's a program that was started by Marian Wright Edelman, addressing literacy, and particularly impacting African American. So that's a program that we will be bringing into North Minneapolis in partnership with Lutheran Social Services. Also, Camp Noah, which is a therapeutic program this summer for children addressing trauma. And someone in the breakout mentioned about gun violence and the trauma that is affecting young people. And so Camp Noah is a wonderful program for children addressing trauma. So those 2 programs and a new program called Alive and Free, particularly focusing on African American youth. So those are 3 programs that we will be bringing into North Minneapolis. And we will be inviting your partnership as we will be raising money to invest and support those programs, specifically investing in North Minneapolis. We also will be doing a Jump Remix, a youth event featuring Marcel and his hip-hop rap and voice, along with William Jones, who we've had in one of our earlier come-togethers. And so that's going to be a wonderful celebration, calling all youth leaders, visionaries, talents, and voices together. That will be Wednesday, July 13th at Redeemer Lutheran Church and on Glenwood Avenue. And we'll be sponsoring. We have a great response from CLNE and for the NAACP Gala, June 18th, this Saturday. It's sold out, and we have a great response. We have 23 people attending from CLNE, and that's the St. Paul NAACP, with speakers being Attorney General Keith Ellison as the keynote speaker, and Angela Davis and Chef Trey Hardy. And there's even more coming up also on July the 13th at Westwood Lutheran Church in St. Louis Park, featuring Joe Davis and David Scher, Just Move, and also Black Garnett Books, the first female bookstore owner. So that will be an event from 5 to 7:30 at Westwood and St. Louis Park. So a lot of activities on that we invite you to participate and celebrate with what we hope will be a wonderful, busy, and safe summer. And again, we're so thankful for our gathering, and keep the word going and celebrating, and we'll continue to grow in our expression of beloved community. And you'll be hearing more. We are starting a campaign of beloved community to develop the resource to do things like Freedom School, Camp Noah, Alive and Free, and investing in community and building beloved community where we're really centering ourselves in amazing leaders like Tasheante and Marcel and their lovely daughter, and all of you. So thank you very much, and we'll see you at our next event. God bless you all. Stay safe and keep cool.
If these the last days, then we're in our final hour. You are who you allowed to be in charge of the power. Manifesting freedom, soon we will all rise. The revolution will not be televised. If these the last days, then we're in our final hour. You are who you allowed to be in charge of the power.